Dale. Go ahead, Dale.
Hi. A lot of people know who I am. I'm president of the Civic Association. I feel I represent 1,200 homes down here. You use the word proximity. We know that Trent Hall Creek is never going to be dredged, so all of a sudden that 150 is just thrown out the river. We know that Indian Creek is never going to be dredged, so there goes that 150. The way I see it is, as long as you require just a little road for somebody to get into their pier, that's acceptable. That's unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Wherever you put these things, eventually, there's going to be either floats or other things impeding recreational boating, fishing, skiing, crabbing in a creek that is designated as Golden Beach both sides. Now, my question, if you'll allow me to finish, why can't these leases be put in places where either state parks or uninhabited land? If we can see them, they're too close.
Like you could put them across the river. There's a state park over there.
So,
They want to protect theirs.
hold on.
So
So,
you can answer my question first, and then
Can
I
we-
think we'll do our very best to try and get everybody's question.
So again, we're talking about a submerged land lease with this
I know what
project.
you're talking about.
So we're a little bit off topic, but I'm more than happy to address that. With respect to water column leases, there's so many variables involved in review of where a water column lease is cited. I can't talk in generalizations, but what I can tell you is, as I just discussed, in an area where a water column lease would impede access or create a safety hazard, we don't issue those leases in those areas.
I believe your idea of impeding access is different than the homeowner who bought on the water for a reason. They're not only enjoying the first 5 feet of their water, they're enjoying their view and everything that goes with it. Yes, if you have a traffic lane for me to get out, you're not impeding me. But look at the mess on both sides that this could turn into. We're really upset because we did the same thing with a park and ride that people told us, oh, it'll never go there. And it's there. What
I
about
mentioned that
St.
at my start.
Jerome's Creek? What about St. Jerome's Creek? People have talked about that. What's down there? What about down near Brooms Island or what's near Solomon's? People have brought this up that there they are. We didn't have a thing to do about it. This seems to be an evolution. You say there's just going to be 4 floats. Nobody has a problem with that. Next, oh, they're dying. Now we need cages. Oh, now we need poles.
Yes, that's
now
what
we need.
happens. That's exactly what happens.
The other thing is, when was the
Understand-
last time the water was tested out? I just asked you.
I'd like to answer that question
But it's
first.
good.
So understand your questions, and I'm here tonight to address perception and misinformation that's been circulated, and hopefully I've done that for some of the folks here. The questions you have about water column leases, I'd be more than happy to address that at a time in the future. This St. Jerome's Creek situation, there are a number of leases in St. Jerome's Creek. Our leaseholders have done very well down there. We had some initial opposition to those leases. We worked through those. We modified the project, worked with the applicants to modify the projects. Things have done very well down there. And honestly, we don't hear a lot of complaints out of St. Jerome's Creek where there are existing operations there.
They got used to the
Are you
ugliness.
aware that there are class action suits in New York for this very thing? Because property values have dropped way down
Yes.
because they've lost their view, they've lost their access. Waterfront community, that means something to 1,200 people down here.
Understood. But we're talking
And
about submerged land lease.
how, let me ask you this. I don't know the Bucklers. I wouldn't know if I walked up to them. You say they're here somewhere. How can 2 people control what the other 1,200 people bought their properties for?
We don't want it. We don't want it.
Right. Listen.
I'll lease the land.
No, just hold on for a minute.
I'll be
Let's just
Give me a choice.
relax just for a second and talk about this, okay? There's a couple things that are happening here. These people from the state that came here, they are only informing and educating you about what current law is. All right? They're telling you what was passed in the legislature, whether we had any input or not at that time. They're telling us what current law is. Okay? But what you guys can do with us, with Matt and I, all right, is you can give us your concerns of the 1,200 houses, right? As many of you know, If you look, right, I did propose a bill last year to deal with column leases. Oyster leases on the bottom is what we're here for tonight, right? We all know that's a good thing. We all know that when most of you bought your property, there were oysters in the Patuxent River, and there were watermen that worked out there. That's a good thing for the bay. The column leases, everybody has an issue with. But Carl and his staff cannot be held accountable for column leases and what's in the law right now, tonight, here at this, here, right? We can deal with it. Matt and I can deal with it in Annapolis and propose legislation to try to protect you. But when that comes up, we need your help, right? We bust people from St. Mary's County last year in other communities that had problems with column leases to Annapolis to deal with that issue, right? Because they were worried of the same concerns that you have.
So approximately about 75% of all these cage leases that are really what's causing the problems are located in St. Mary's County. We represent a county that has, about 440 miles of coastline. So this original legislation, I think, was created back long before I even thought about running for office, and long before Jack even got there. And we're just now seeing these leases being granted, and we're having some growing pains with them, obviously. We would like some addition, you have the law on what's permissible by law, and then you have best practices. And I think it's the intent of DNR, if I'm not mishearing you, Carl, that not to have cage leases outside a 1,200-foot neighborhood, or 1,200-home neighborhood, correct? Correct. So, Dale is absolutely right. I mean, there's dozens of other places that would be more fitting. This falls under aquaculture. You should probably put aquaculture next to agriculture. Kind of makes sense. But, we would like to pass or introduce, again, some more legislation that would further give property owners a little bit greater protection. So, stay tuned for that and work with our offices. And it would be really helpful if you could all show up and enforce and do that. So.
I got a question about the water. A certain amount of water levels there is for this. When was the last time it was physically gone out there and checked? I know that there's a certain height of water for the ingress and egress of all our boats on our piers. We all know what tides are doing. Okay? You came out with a statement on a map that showed a certain water level. And I know that's not to be true. I'd like to know when was it very last physically gone out and taken a measurement to check up on this lease. I asked your assistant, she said they go by a different department, charts and leases. But when was it actually physically gone out and taken a look at, other than just say, oh, this is what it was because of radar, sonar, and
No, we don't.
a chart?
Well, we actually have.
But it wasn't done for this. And I can tell you it wasn't done.
Absolutely was.
Okay.
Our state hydrographer.
At what time of month? Because at the time of month in the year, I'm telling you, it's not what it is now.
It was surveyed by our state hydrographer on June 12, 2019.
During our highest tide.
So
In June 12. Has it been looked at since, just other than that one time?
Under a normal tide.
So when our
And that's all, I'm just saying there are normal tides that come into the water. And that is our highest, excuse me, that is our highest point of tide, is that part of the year.
So
How about if we take a look at it at normal time?
So when our hydrographer comes out and takes his readings, he corrects that using existing historical data to mean low or low water. So when those readings are put out, it's mean low or low water, so it's taking in the extremes. So you will know what the depths are at those lower points in time, right? So they're not just taking a snapshot of that day, they're looking at historical data and then making corrections.
But again, your concern is the cage lease, right?
My concern is ingress and egress outside of my pier when the water level changes when they start playing these oyster beds as well. I'm not opposed. The other thing is I wish I would have had a chance
So
to lease it myself. I mean, I think everybody, one of us, would do something if we had a chance to lease the property out in front of us to help ecologically and take just like adopt a roadway. I would adopt my piece of water to help nature and DNR as well and preserve my waterfront. I would never be opposed to these prices either. I mean, if you're going to give me a chance for $25 per acre,
Right.
I'll give you a chance first, living on the water, to go ahead and do it. And I will do something probably better because I live there and probably take care of it a lot better. And that's just something that I'm trying to propose.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about addressing perception, and I know one of the elephants in this room is because we were told, and whether it be rumor mill or not, and you can address that here, that the silt was much too thick for the oyster beds to survive. So in that case, that they were going into it knowing that would happen, and that they were going to apply for the cages. So that is a part of the animosity that's in this room right now. So if you could, and I know you're saying it wouldn't happen, but the fact of the matter is it has happened south
Many
of us.
times.
So there's not a lot of homeowners here who have a lot of faith in that system right now.
Yeah,
Didn't
so,
say it wouldn't happen, he said they would have to reapply.
They said that was intent.
so, and I can ask Josh to say something, but one of the reasons, our understanding is one of the reasons that they applied for this area was there was an old lease there, and it's depicted on one of the posters. And with an old lease being there, there's some shells left over from that leasing activity. So that helps to stabilize the bottom. So even though there may be silt on the surface, when they put the oysters in there, they work their way into the bottom, but they're not going to sink out of sight because there's a shell base existing there. As hopefully everybody knows, oyster shells are in really short supply, and they're very expensive. So in order to get an area to lease it, make it productive, make it economically feasible, you want to first go look for an area that has an existing shell base where your oysters won't sink out of sight. Josh, is that?
Yes, I'm not looking for a mud flat, I'm looking for a hard bottom.
So real quick, I want to address that.
So is that not true that was said?
No,
That-
whoever said that I was gonna go apply for a loan to get, no, I can't do that. I couldn't afford to do it. If I wanted to bank after that, I would get it. But that has never been my intentions. I've spat on shelves on the bottom, we're gonna go work the bottom, and that's it. I've never had any intention of putting cages down or floats. I don't have the time to go and pressure wash cages every week. And I know it would obstruct me. I crab that creek, Brooks and Shallow, I crab it just about every day. When you see that there's a 25-foot Parker that's out there just about every day, that's my boat. Most of you guys that live there have probably seen me. I crab there every day. I'm not just some Joe Schmo that's going to come throw some on the bottom and hope it grows. I work the water every day. This is how we support our kids. If I thought I was just blowing money away, I'd never do it. But no, I'm not picking a mud flat to do it. It's a hard bottom there. The water depth's deep enough. None of y'all are going to hit the bottom. And if you did hit the bottom, y'all going to come tell me you hit the oysters? No one's going to come tell me, hey, I hit your oysters. Everybody's worried about having to pay for oysters and whatnot. If you would be that honest to come tell me you hit my oysters, I'd appreciate it. But no one's going to come tell me they hit them.
Are there other watermen that are not going to be able to crab and fish there because of these?
No, everyone's still going to be able to do the same thing. The same bottom is there right now. We're just adding more spack to the bottom. That's it. You're going to have more oysters on the bottom. It's not getting no deeper by feet or anything. You're talking about 3 inches of shell.
But isn't there a chance of damaging your bed if they're crabbing or fishing?
There's a chance of skate coming in wiping the lease out one summer. There's a chance for turtles coming to eat, and the crabs are going to eat. You have to take the chance. I'm taking a gamble with my money. I'm not asking anybody else to put into this or come work on it. I'm not trying to obstruct anybody's view. I'm not trying to damage anybody's pier. I'd be the first one to help any of you guys. I've seen y'all working in your yard. But like I said, most of y'all probably have seen my boat out there crabbing. Me, my wife crabs as well. She works the water every day with me. I've never heard anybody have a problem with my eel pot sitting out in front of the pier. My catfish trout lines, which are out there right now, I haven't heard anybody say anything about those. And there's 200 hooks hanging on each line out there.
Do you live in the beach? Do you live
No, I don't.
No.
I don't live in Golden Beach. But I'm not trying to damage anybody's property.